Now, a Target 12 investigators exclusive contract controversy. New records and emails we obtained show a firm that ultimately won a multi-million-dollar taxpayer-funded contract knew about the details of the bidding process before it was publicly announced.
The revelation is raising new questions about how fair the process was and if the firm had a leg up. Target 12 investigator Tim White is here now with those exclusive details.
Earlier this year, officials in the McKee administration told lawmakers that ILO Group, the consulting firm that ultimately won the multi-million-dollar contract, had no unfair advantage in the bidding process. But emails obtained by Target 12 are raising new questions about that claim.
I'm Dr. Julia Rafel-Bear.
Julia Rafel-Bear, seen in this video with state purchasing officials earlier this year, is the principal of ILO Group, a company that won a consulting contract worth up to $5.2 million to, among other goals, help reopen schools during the pandemic.
In school reopening and COVID-19 testing.
At the time the state was seeking bids from firms for the contract, Rafel-Bear was working at a nonprofit run by a close associate of Governor Dan McKee named Michael McKee. In October, lawmakers asked Department of Administration officials if that gave Rafel-Bear an unfair advantage in getting the contract.
I don't know that ILO did know about this process.
DOA Director Jim Thorson said no.
I think it's important to point out that because Mike McKee may have known ILO does not necessarily mean that he consulted with them or told them about an RFP.
But emails from February, newly obtained by Target 12, show Rafel-Bear was plugged in early on. McKee wrote to McKee days before the governor was sworn in, writing, "Julia Rafel-Bear and I worked on this scope over the weekend," adding, "Julia will play the lead role in this personally, and none of this is cheap." McKee responded, "How many millions?" McKee estimated the work would cost $9 million for the first year and followed up with this email outlining the services Rafel-Bear could provide the state. Some of those elements were incorporated into the state bid proposal that was ultimately awarded to ILO Group. ILO's initial bid for the work, $8.8 million. Target 12 first raised questions about the unusual bidding process back in September. Attorney General Peter Nerona has since launched an investigation into whether the process followed the state's purchasing law. For his part, McKee has repeatedly insisted everything from the request for proposal, or RFP, to awarding the contract was fair and square.
As far as the agreement goes in terms of the contract, it was a competitive bid process right from this word go.
Would you agree with that statement, knowing what we know now from these emails?
No, I wouldn't say competitive.
John Marion is the executive director of Good Government Group, Common Cause, Rhode Island.
And some of the language in the emails is disturbing because it makes this effort look like more of a political campaign and less of a trying to run a government.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the Department of Administration says Thorson and state purchasing agent Nancy McIntyre were not aware of the emails or their content before testifying to lawmakers. Spokespeople for the governor and ILO Group both say the emails reflect a proposal for an emergency contract and the bid, or RFP, was a separate process. But in the emails obtained by Target 12, McKee wrote there are two options: an emergency contract or a very fast RFP.
So much to take on this mission.
A spokesperson for ILO Group says early on the McKee administration did seek Rafel-Bear's advice on education policy, but Dr. Rafel-Bear was never involved in subsequent deliberations over nor included on any emails about whether those services would be needed. Marion said despite those red flags, the bidding process may have technically been legal. Coming up new at 6, what he thinks should happen to level the playing field. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, 12 News.
Now, new details in a Target 12 investigators exclusive contract controversy. At 5, we told you emails revealed a well-connected company may have had an inside track to a taxpayer-funded contract worth up to $5.2 million.
New at 6 tonight, should the state's purchasing law get overhauled? The head of a Good Government Group says yes. Target 12 investigator Tim White is here with the exclusive details.
When state officials are seeking to award a contract, they put out what's called a request for proposals, or an RFP. As we revealed at 5, never-before-seen emails show the principal of consulting firm ILO Group was part of early discussions about this lucrative state education deal before it was made public. Two top officials at the Department of Administration told lawmakers last year it would be inappropriate if a potential bidder was part of the discussion on an upcoming contract opportunity.
Why is that circumstance, either actual or potential, why is that okay?
It is not okay.
But new emails obtained by Target 12 show Julia Rafelbear, the principal of the consulting firm ILO Group, as well as Michael McKee, a close confidant to Governor Dan McKee, were involved in the discussions with McKee administration officials about the scope of a state contract to, among other things, help reopen schools safely. That contract wound up going to ILO. McKee wrote to McKee and his advisors on February 28th, days before the governor was sworn in. Julia Rafelbear and I worked on this scope over the weekend, adding Julia would play the lead role in this personally, and none of this is cheap. McKee responded, "Thanks, Mike. How many millions?" McKee said the award could be either an emergency contract or a very fast RFP.
The law apparently has loopholes.
John Marion of Common Cause Rhode Island says the state's purchasing law was overhauled decades ago in the wake of scandals. He says it may need to happen again.
Especially in this instance, when there was an extremely quick turnaround on the bids, an unusually quick turnaround on the bids, they've got the inside track.
Marion also says there should be more scrutiny of members of transition committees, volunteers who help an incoming governor set their policy agendas and staff up. Mike McKee was a transition volunteer for McKee.
I think we have to look at the people who serve on those transition committees. Should they be filing financial disclosures and be subject to the code of ethics?
And right now they're not.
And right now they're not.
A spokesperson for the Department of Administration says the two officials who told lawmakers in October that ILO was not involved were not aware of the emails newly obtained by Target 12.
So much to take.
A spokesperson for ILO Group says early on the McKee administration did seek Rafelbear's advice on education policy, but Dr. Rafelbear was never involved in subsequent deliberations over nor included on any emails about whether those services would be needed.
This would be a good example of where the legislature, if it really wanted to do oversight, as we see in Congress, as we see in other states, they would take the lessons learned and they would make changes to the state's purchasing laws so that this wouldn't happen again.
And there were developments on this contract late Friday. We learned ILO Group is no longer working for the state just 6 months into the contract. The state has paid one bill for $763,000, but officials have refused to release a second invoice, saying it's still under review. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, 12 News.